Hey y'all, today's video is especially for my moms who leak. Now, if you're not a mom, don't click away just yet. Everything that I mentioned in today's video still applies to you. It's just going to hit a little different for my followers who are moms. I'm going to share the 3 things I wish someone had told me sooner, not just as a pelvic health physical therapist, but also as a mom of 3 who really didn't leak until after my 3rd baby. I'm going to share what you need to look out for early and what you need to do if you think it's too late to stop the leaks. Because one of the biggest mistakes I see moms making isn't just doing the wrong exercises. It's either thinking it's too late to stop the leaks or that the leaks are just a part of motherhood. So let's get into it. One of the things I wish moms knew sooner is that stopping the leaks isn't just for brand new moms. And even for me, in my line of work as a pelvic health therapist, I wish I really believed that for myself much sooner. So I know how the pelvic floor works. I know what all the umbrella of symptoms can be when you have pelvic floor problems, but I didn't have leakage after my 1st or 2nd kid. So it really was a surprise to me after my 3rd child because it just wasn't on my radar. I really thought I was in the clear. And so I want women to know that leakage can occur at any stage of life. And leakage is such a large umbrella of symptoms. It could range from having a dribble going down your legs with a hard sneeze to a full-on gush or loss of control just from going from sitting to standing as you're trying to make it to the bathroom. And so because those range of symptoms are so large, like the help that you need can really vary depending on where you are in life. And if you're experiencing leakage, your pelvic floor is involved. And because again, those symptoms can go from a little dribble to a full-on gush. It can happen to you if you're if your baby's 1 month old, or if your child is 20 years old. So your pelvic floor is susceptible to changes that happen in your body physically. It's susceptible to trauma and stress. And so because those things can vary throughout various stages of life, the leakage can hit you kind of at any point. There is no deadline, unfortunately, of when leakage can occur. So because of that, there really is no deadline of when you can seek help. So the number one thing to remember is that it isn't normal. And because those symptoms can occur at every stage of life, you can also get help at any stage of life. Now, the second thing I wish I had realized sooner is that self-sabotage can really make the leaks worse. Now, as moms, we are constantly taking care of other people. It is really easy to put ourselves at the bottom of the priority list because we're cooking, we're cleaning, we're chauffeuring, we're organizing schedules. And if your kids are a little older, you're probably giving them financial support or maybe even helping them with their kids. So you're always spread thin. And again, it's so easy to put ourselves last because we're so used to taking care of everyone else. And being a mom is multi-layered. It never stops. Once you become a mom, you're always going to be a mom. So that self-sabotage thing is very real because it's not always something that we're consciously doing. For me, it showed up with staying up late, trying to get my mommy me time and really just contributing to my own exhaustion. I'm really tired, but I'm staying up late to get those extra few minutes to myself, but really I'm self-sabotaging my body's ability to heal. And the way that I cope with that is with caffeine, like a lot of moms. So it's like the root of the problem is just you're tired and I needed an earlier bedtime specifically. And the way that I cope with that is by drinking caffeine. And so if you consume excessive amounts of caffeine, you are going to make your bladder not so happy. So if you're someone who deals with leaks every time you have the urge to pee, you really don't want to be drinking something that's going to give you stronger and more frequent urges to pee, which is caffeine is a trigger for that. And so you may think you're, giving yourself that time alone by staying up late or whatever the self-sabotage mechanism could be for you. That's just my example. But the way that you're not helping your leaks is by consuming something that could actually be making your leaks worse. And that's just one example. I'm actually going to do another video that goes into a little more depth of what self-sabotage really looks like for moms and women who leaks. But for the purpose of today's video, I'm going to give you 2 other examples. So the next example is restricting fluids. So it's really easy to think, okay, if I don't drink as much, I'm not going to pee as much and I'm not going to leak as much. But not hydrating properly really, again, makes the bladder not so happy just as much as if you're consuming too many irritants like excessive caffeine. And so our bladder likes to feel, our bladder likes for our body to be hydrated. Our bladder also does best when we're drinking more water and less irritants. And so restricting fluid really works to your disadvantage. That is not going to help the leaks, even though it may feel like it does. But that is kind of another self-sabotaging mechanism that you may not realize is making your leaks worse. Then the second self-sabotaging thing that I see a lot of moms doing is oversqueezing and excessively doing Kegels. And so I know Kegels used to be like what was the first recommendation to stop the leaks, but our pelvic floor is so multifaceted. It does not only tighten and squeeze, it has to be able to do many things. Relaxing and lengthening is one of them. And Kegels only work on one aspect of what that group of muscles does. And so if you're someone who leaks and you've been squeezing all night long and doing your Kegels and it hasn't really helped, it may be because that is not what's best for your pelvic floor, and it's not best to optimize your pelvic floor function. So those are two things that a lot of moms in particular do that they think are making their leaks better, but are really self-sabotaging any other progress you could be making by those little like sneaky ways that don't really help your overall problem. So if you've been doing these things, it doesn't mean that you're stuck forever, but it does mean that it's important to identify so you don't remain in that constant loop of continued leaks. The third thing I wish more moms knew sooner is that avoiding movement is one of the biggest mistakes that can make your leaks worse. And so naturally as humans, if we have something that gives us pain or discomfort, we avoid that because we don't want to feel that. And so I often hear moms say, you know, I no longer jump on the trampoline with my kids. I stopped running. I cross my legs with every sneeze or laugh because they think avoiding those scenarios when the leakage happened is the best way to keep that at bay. But actually, that's contributing to the problem. We don't want to avoid movement because that is where our pelvic floor is used. That's where it's worked. That's where it's strengthened. So we want to gradually practice and be in a controlled environment to build back that strength. It's just like training for a marathon. You wouldn't avoid running. You'd work your way up to the distance that you want to be able to perform. And the pelvic floor is no different. I always highly suggest that you work with a professional. You don't have to do this alone. You want to work with someone who's going to develop and cater a plan to your starting point and what your needs are that can really walk you through what that looks like in a controlled environment, in a controlled setting or plan is what I mean, so that the graded and progression is specific to what you need to get you back to doing what you want to do without thinking about or being fearful of leaking. And so for me, after my third kid, I noticed the leaks when I was jumping rope. And so, of course, as a pelvic health therapist, immediately I put on my professional hat and I'm like, I need to do something about this. But that actually wasn't the hardest part for me. The harder part was making the decision of choosing myself because I had this 6-week-old baby. I had a 7 and 4-year-old. I knew I was halfway through my maternity leave. So I really had to make a decision to choose myself. And as a mom, that can be really hard to do. And so we don't want to put ourselves on the back burner. We want to make those choices, not ignore the leakage, but make those choices for ourselves so that we can heal and again, get back to leading a regular life without having to wear pads or dark clothes or kind of fit in all these modifications that really don't have a deadline. It's like when you start doing that, you just do that forever. You avoid activity forever. And that's not the best way of life, you know, specifically if you're someone who's active, who wants to get back to doing those things. So we know the leaks aren't normal. We don't want to avoid activity and we want to pair ourselves with a trained professional so that you can stop the leaks and get back to doing the activities that you love. All right. So as I wrap up, I want all my moms to know that the difference between the moms who stay stuck and the ones who stop leakage have nothing to do with willpower or discipline. It's all about having the right support, awareness, and the belief that you can make a change. I want you all to remember that number one, the leaks are not normal and you can get help and you can stop the leaks at any stage and age. Number two, motherhood does not require sacrifice to the point of self-sabotage. And number three, you don't have to just live with the leaks. You don't have to avoid movements. And remember that all the modifications in place, like the pads and not jumping or running, it doesn't really stop the leaks. It just deconditions your body to stay in that constant loop of leaks. So let me know your thoughts. Leave me a comment. Tell me, when did the leak show up for you? Let's have a discussion around that. And make sure to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss the next video in this series where I'll delve into self-sabotage, how that shows up for women who leak and moms who leak, and what you can do about it. Thanks for watching. Bye.